It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
We're talking about petting the horse.
Petting the horse. Wow.
Now let me lead into this a little bit.
We may want to set this up a little bit.
I'm doing that.
Petting the horse. People are running for the hills.
There they are. Well, here's the story, because it's a really remarkable tale of awareness. I'm going to call it a bit of a tipping point for you, Barnet. Barnet has been on a retreat with some incredible folks, the folks TLC, Transformational Leadership Council, which is Jack Canfield's organization, a powerhouse of thought leaders and remarkable folks, went on retreat recently. And the Horse Whisperer, the original Horse Whisperer, was one of the presenters to you guys. And he did an exercise that was quite remarkable, and it changed you in a particular way. At least it illustrated something that you may have been aware of in the past, but this made it really
so dramatically
clear. So tell us a little bit about this experience.
There is a wonderful man, Wyatt Webb. We will have him as a guest on this show. He strikes you at first meeting as this kind of cowboy kind of a guy, and he is salt of the earth, just this wonderful, wonderful man, grizzled,
white hair,
dusty, big dusty hat, and we experienced with him a collapsing of, I can only call it, he took us out into the field, and he took us literally out into the field, not just the field of clover, but he took us into a relationship with a field of energy. And I'll tell you a little bit about how that happened. He works with horses, and he had a horse there, and he had all of these folks there, with him, and some of them very well known, and some of them very powerful teachers in their own right. And here was this wonderful guide, and he said, he had this great horse out there, and he said, "You're going to step up to the horse," and he gave us a little pick, and he said, "You're going to clean the muck out from the horseshoe, but you'll step up to the horse and grab it firmly just on the tendon above the hoof, and it will lift its hoof." But, well, before the but. So I'm actually the first up. So I trot out there, grab this horse. I'm not lifting that foot. It's not going. It's planted.
But before you grab the hoof, this is the best part of the story: is you started petting the horse.
No, wait.
All right. I don't want to throw off your story.
Yeah, so I go out there and grab this hoof is planted. It's in cement. It's like the front of Grauman's Chinese Theater. It's not going anywhere. So Wyatt says to me, "I'm petting the horse now."
Right. You started petting the horse.
So he says to me,
"All right."
He says to me, "Do you always, in the whole rest of fabric of your life, do you always reward failure?" I'm thinking about that for a second. The hand comes off the horse like it's fire. And then he says, goes a little deeper with it. He says, "What is going on for you right there?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to make a friend of the horse, and I'm just trying to be known by it." And he says, very beautifully, "This animal does not respond to your manipulations. This animal responds only to energy. This animal understands only that it is a part of the natural world of nature. And when you come to it with a particular energy, it will respond. But you are not clear in that energy. If you come to it with an intention to clear its foot, and not muddied up by other intentions of, well, I'm going to manipulate it into liking me so I can lift its foot. Or when you come clearly with one intention, it will immediately respond.
Mm.
So now I'm all like thrown off my game. Right now I'm all in my
Flustered.
head. I'm all flustered. And Wyatt says, how often do you play your life like this? In what other areas do you get flustered, and how much you're trying to control the situation? Somehow that landed in me.
Mm.
He says, try it again. So I got so clear suddenly about all of the stuff that I put around intention. I want something. We can call that the clear warrior energy. Now, the moment you say warrior energy, a whole lot of people, me included, our backs go up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not the warrior energy to dominate, not the warrior energy to control, but just the warrior energy. It's an archetypal energy. We possess it all, but we push it away.
Yeah, you're talking about a clarity of intention.
It's a clarity of intention and a commitment, a purposeful commitment.
That's right.
To cut through whatever it is in order to accomplish it. That is an integrated warrior energy.
And it's action-driven. It's about an action.
It is
it's
about
something
action.
You're actually doing.
It is not conceptual.
Right.
It is an action.
Right.
It is a manifesting energy. So I understood that around all of that energy, I have all this other stuff about being liked, about making friends, about if I make friends with this horse, it'll like me, it will accommodate me, all this other stuff that I realize I do right across the fabric of my life.
Wow.
And it just hit me with such clarity. And I dropped it. And I went up to the horse to lift its leg, and that leg flew up before I could touch it.
Wow.
It was an enormous show and tell to me. This idea that the natural world is not responsive to the languaging. It's responsive to the intention, the attention. Where attention goes, energy follows.
That's right.
It's responsive to energy.
That's it. Horses and kids, specifically little kids. You know, you try telling a 3-year-old something when your energy is saying something different, and they're not listening to a word you're saying. They're simply reading you energetically. I think what is so powerful about this, there's a number of things that are powerful. Obviously, you know, I am so grateful for your humility, Barnet, and your humanity, that you are so, what's the word, available to this type of learning. And then the fact that you share it with me, because we spoke about this, I guess, on Monday. And ever since Monday, now we've talked a half dozen times and even hung out, and it keeps coming up. Are you petting the horse? Are you petting?
We have new language now.
I'm petting the horse. You know, here I am going, what is it that I really want? I have to tease out in my own life. This is an imperative for me now. I get it. I got to tease out what I want. And because I've spent so much energy trying to be liked, trying to manipulate the circumstances, because there's a part of me that really doesn't know how to I say this very lightly, just do it. Just say it. Just
There's a
express
distinction.
it.
You're hitting on a very important distinction to be made, lest anybody think, are these guys saying like we shouldn't be nice?
Oh, no.
What we're saying is
no.
as we become more and more clear of the intentions behind these acts, we can become more responsible for the choices that we make around them. So that when I, for instance,
I don't want to be nice. Let me back up. I want to be genuine.
Yes, you want to be real.
I want to be genuine.
Because if you're being nice to somebody,
forget about it.
in order so that they will like you, in order so that they will accommodate you in some way.
I'm
if you're
playing
being
nice. Then I'm playing nice.
Yes, then you are actually not being nice at all. You're manipulating.
That's right.
And the deeper truth is, it's a learned strategy that goes way back to when we were very young, when we discovered, for whatever reasons, usually out of as a result of the impact on us as small people, we discovered we couldn't really ask for what we wanted, but we could manipulate for what we wanted.
I could cry right now.
These
It's
things,
so true
they
for me.
pile on, they add up, and
So
they create
true.
whole structures of insincerity. And the nature reads it. We are not separate from nature.
Yeah. So going back to the energy of our lives, the cleaning up the energy so that we're actually in integrity. We're integrated. We're able to step up and say what we want. We've spent a lot of time on this show, and we spend a bit of time in the book, and it's appropriate, talking about the integration process, which is fundamental to getting to the point of choice. The point of choice, though, you got to get to the point of choice. We can't keep mapping out the disowned parts.
We map it out so that we understand that when something happens and we're triggered, and we fragment, we shatter, the little shard of self that identified with the triggering moment. I wish I could be more specific right now, and we are in the book, we promise.
That's right.
But that little shard of self that identifies with being hurt or unseen or not getting needs met or wanting to be important or wanting to be loved or wanting to be held or wanting to be stroked or wanting to have toys or wanting to feel good. That little shard of self that got triggered yesterday or last night, that shard is very young.
Yeah.
And when we can understand that actions that we may be taking in the present, that were the strategies that worked for that little fragmented shard back then. Well, it'll be really nice and Mommy will buy me a toy. But I'll be really nice and maybe the real estate agent will knock a 0.25 percentage point off the closing costs of... This strategy is manipulative.
It is.
So it's a big learning, a very, very big learning.
Yeah, I'm even going to language it a little bit. We've talked about in the past about repairing, and in this case we're talking about repairing the fractured self, this part of us that's split from our own knowing. You know, when we're told as kids that a certain feeling is unacceptable, whether we're literally told, stop feeling that, or whether we're just sent very clear messages that that's out of bounds.
Or we are longing for a certain connection emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually that is absent from us. Or worse, we are physically deprived of touch, or even worse than that, we're struck or we're hit or we're... These things, they cause us to split off and to armor and to make certain kinds of strategic choices to defend against that in the future. It's usually held in the body.
Yeah.
We go through life rigid and with these strategies to manipulate, to under the table, try and find ways to, if I pet the horse and we are friends, I will have more success with getting him to lift his leg because he's going to like me, right?
Yeah. Oh, listen, I mean, this has been it's been a theme throughout my life that there's this part of me that is energetically bleeding out, leaking out, something as we've said, all over the place. And if I can pull it in enough so that
leaking,
I have a
sense,
leaking out, yeah.
On this show, we've referred to that as leaking.
That I have a sense of it, that I repair enough. I put back the truth about who I am, and I'm able to hold it just enough so I can make an empowered choice, which is a self-honoring choice, which in
an
very
integrated
real
choice.
terms,
It's
yes.
putting Humpty Dumpty back together again.
That's
because
right.
all the king's horses and all the king's men can't do it. Only I can do it. Only you can do
That's
it.
beautiful.
It can't be done by somebody else.
That is
I
really...
finally figured out in this moment, in real time, folks, what the egg story is about.
The Humpty Dumpty. All the king's horses. And all the king's men.
That's a wise story.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. So Wyatt came along with his white hair and his grisly quality and helped collapse a lot of the construct and helped you arrive in a field, an energetic field, where you were able to see that your experience is a reflection of this deep energies inside of you that have been fractured, splintered off in all manner of direction, and to own them, to hold them, and to rein them in, to use a horse analogy, enough so
to love
that
them,
you
but not
can...
to allow them to play out. The world will not accommodate that anymore. And here's this incredibly...
Well, it never has.
Well, it moves...
It seems as if it
seemed
is.
And it, to the extent it did, things energetically, it was a different world. It was, again, we can get very esoteric on this show, so I'm going to resist the temptation. But the world we are shifting from a particular way of relating to ourselves and to all that is, and discovering that that way no longer works. This kinds of relating to a way of the world as being extrinsic, and now we're discovering there is no extrinsic. All the king's horses and all the king's men will not do it. Only intrinsic.
Absolutely.
Sense. So that is a fundamental shift. There was a time when that worked more effectively enough that we could have lives. Time moved differently, and energies were different, and things appeared to happen more slowly. That's no longer the case, and there is a reason that this shift is accelerating.
You bet.
And part of it has to do with the increasing speed of the energy, of the energetic world that we're in, and we are becoming more and more aware of the world as an energy game. And this conversation we're having about petting the horse was entirely for me a window into relating to the world, not by trying to manipulate or trying to be strategic, but as an energy game.
Yep.
Where was I leaking energy all over the place by manipulating, by getting aggressive, by getting passive aggressive, by playing a pity game, by please love me, pony, and lift your leg.
The metaphor is so powerful. It is so powerful because it's such an opportunity to look at our own lives, and if there's a benchmark, a guidepost, if you will, in this case it's a horse, but for our own lives, that we actually create a way of inventorying what's the unearthed agenda.
What's under the table?
What's
our agenda under the table that's really going on here? We can be our own Wyatt Webb, who truly was the most magical character. Just this wonderful Will Rogers type of dusty Western figure.
It's the wise.
I have this great picture that somebody took of me I ran into him the next day, and
I saw that picture.
Did you see it? Isn't that great?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Dusty, grizzled little guy with a cowboy head. I went up to him and I totally energetically aligned and lifted his leg.
It's fantastic. He's your Yoda.
He's
your Yoda.
He's a big Yoda.
He's a big Yoda.
That's a big Yoda.
Yeah. I just, it's so funny. I just recently was watching. I just clicked on the TV, and there was Yoda and Luke. And Luke was raising the stones. I can't tell you which Star Wars it was, but he was raising the stones. And then C-3PO R2-D2 makes him aware that his spaceship has sunk in the muck. And so Yoda says, okay, then lift the spaceship. And he says, I can't lift the spaceship. And he says, it's the same as lifting stones. Yeah, don't see, no, I can.
Lift I can.
Yeah. Lift I can. And it's the same thing. That's interesting.
Who knew what George Lucas was talking about all those years ago? Who knew?
Well, I think it's interesting because
I wonder if he knew.
That's a great point, is that what he tapped into, the wisdom. We talked about this when we had Philip Goldberg on, about how the Vedic tradition and those deeper wisdoms were carried through in so many ways in expressions of music and film and so forth.
That particular lineage went from George Lucas back to Joseph Campbell,
That's right.
who mentored him around that subject.
But I don't want to lose the point of the bigness of it. So again,
petting the horse.
Whether it's petting the horse or whether it's a stone, the stone and the spaceship are the same thing.
Energy game.
It's an energy game. And so it doesn't matter how large the decision-making process is or how big it seems to be. It doesn't make any difference. So I guess the offer for me personally is this is in the most subtle of ways. We were at coffee, and I can't remember what you brought up. It doesn't really matter. You brought up something sort of mundane, and I told you I started getting nervous because just in being called at my own horse petting behavior in the most subtle ways. It doesn't have to be big. The stakes are just as high in the minute details of our lives than the big decisions. It is all this displaced,
we used to say
energy.
We used to have this conversation, the two of us, about Well, this area is working.
Right. Oh, that's right. Right. No, that's it.
Talk about that.
No,
Ahead,
that's a
talk about
great
that.
piece. No, you started. I think it's fantastic.
So this area is working.
Yeah.
It's, and from the perspective of energy, that is the equivalent of saying, well, my right leg works really great. The left one is not so good.
Yeah.
I'm gimping around on the left one, but my right leg is really tucked in.
Yeah.
And how often do you and I do that?
All the time.
I mean, when my marriage is really great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm having a little sort of cash flow thing here and there, but my marriage is really great.
Yeah.
And we separate ourselves out. These things are really energetically. They are systems. It's systemic. Not to say that, again, we use this word a lot now, developmental. That at a certain developmental stage, it isn't appropriate, because it is appropriate to heal bits and pieces of ourselves. But eventually, we pull back so we see the whole gestalt. You see the entire thing.
That's it. Because
and now to do anything less is a leaking, is a hemorrhaging of our authority over ourselves, our ability to respond, our responsibility for our own choices, healing, decisions, attitudes, feelings. And when we just say, well, this area works, my right leg is really great, the left leg is not so good, but let me just acknowledge the right leg.
Yeah.
And that at this point should be the no-fly zone.
It should be the language again is embodying, because that's a sense where the energy is held in a way that distributes it wherever it's got to go, because it's not about the right leg versus the left leg. Everything's seen as a system, which again is a tremendous analogy for the quality we can see reflected in nature of how everything works in unison. You can't take one part out and say, oh, well, we're only going to pay attention to, the ozone layer and pollute the heck out of the ocean. That doesn't work. The two are linked. They're inseparable. You can't just parcel them out and say, well, we're going to only focus here, which is an incredible call to wake up. Whatever area we see it in, that's fine. But the energy is what's
and we make it personal,
foundational.
It's very easy for us to get lost in the magnitude of the challenges that we face as a culture and as a planet. It's very easy to get lost in it and
that's a distraction.
To go extrinsic.
Yeah.
If anything emerged for me out of the Wyatt Webb petting the horse experience, it's that you become aligned inside. And then people say, well, yeah, but what about the outside?
It'll take care of itself.
It'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
And certainly, and if we doubt that, we certainly are going to be no more effective in contributing to the challenges of the outside when we are out of alignment on the inside.
Are you kidding me? Then the expressions, they're just expressions. Once we become integrated on the inside, then the expressions on the outside are just expressions. We can pick this one or that one, and our ability to be effective, that's the issue. We've talked about this in the past as a box, as a cube, as this expanding of capacity of the integration process where there's more to offer. And so without seeing the whole picture, the tendency is to concentrate over here, as if we're to focus over here, and not pay attention that it's a cube. It's a capacity that needs to be expanded. With that, we've run out of time.
Well, we just have to come back next week. We thank all of our listeners for being so loyal with us. This is our first year anniversary of this show.
Yes.
And it's been a real honor to spend this year working with you, and a real blessing. I love every minute of it, and I fall in love more and more every week.
Yeah.
And I feel that we are discovering a voice for ourselves, and I also feel as though we are being discovered by something.
Thank you. It's been an incredible year. I mean, it's been one of the biggest years of growth for me personally, and I attribute it in large measure to the work we've done and the bond we've built. Because for me as a man, to have another man I can rely on is outside of my personal paradigm. I mean, it isn't now, but it was. It was a thing that wow, can I really rely on this guy? I don't want to go too far into because we're at the end of the show, but just that piece about how as we put our pieces together and copped to it and called each other, we became more trustworthy. The 12-year-old boys in the parking lot and all these bits and pieces that have come along this year about how we've stood in our own truth and integrity to grow, not just as individuals, but together in relationship, which has been incredibly powerful. So thank you, Barnet.
Happy birthday to us.
Happy
We'll
birthday
see you
to us.
next week.
And for those of you listening, keep coming back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Thanks for listening.